Flat Rock, written by H. Paul Cote and read by Logan Beavers. Have you ever been thinking about going camping? I would advise against staying at the Flat Rock RV Park. There have been rumors circling around about people going missing and the ritualized remains of others being found. Some even say the perpetrators are ancient ghosts of Indians that died on the Trail of Tears. The book has 189 pages and 145 pictures. The chapters are: Chapter 1, Flat Rock RV Park. Chapter 2, Flat Rock Begins. Chapter 3, George and Bonnie Camping. Chapter 4, George Seeing Things. Chapter 5, Full Moon Sacrifice. Chapter 6, Dawn Going Camping. Chapter 7, Dawn Dreaming. Chapter 8, Sacrifice Goes Wrong. Chapter 9, The Council Meeting. Chapter 10, Bob and Sandra Traveling. Chapter 11, Indian Spirits Rising Up. Chapter 12, Sandra's Mind Going Blank. Chapter 13, Burying Bones. Chapter 14, Moving the Camper. Chapter 15, Screaming Truck. Chapter 16, Levi Camping. Chapter 17, Deep Sleep. Chapter 18, Black Bone in Pursuit. Chapter 19, Hiding the Evidence. Chapter 20, The Hunt. Chapter 21, Waiting Room. And Chapter 22, The Last Moon. We cometh from the ground, from dust to dust. Our beloved, the ground, yields its growth. Who sets above the ground, its unborn? Who becomes caretakers of these lands? God of earth. It is He that asks for sacrifice. We, His children, that were traded, slaved, tortured, raped, dismembered, and murdered. I am He who sends the counsel to chiefs, warriors who have trialed judgment against men. The sentence, sacrifice of man's blood to be given on the full moon. I have handed out new orders to be carried out. I am calling this council meeting of the chiefs. Sitting Cloud says, this meeting come together. We need move forth for sacrifice of white man. He has destroyed our homeland, our earth. He destroyed our people. Anything white man touches dies. I say white man should die. We are now safe in spirit world where white men cannot kill. Our fathers' fathers before us blessed us with powers. We should carry out using them to reclaim our land. White man has broken treaty for many generations. Take this information and know it well. This is the history of our people. Chiefs of this council meeting, hand stories over to your warriors. These scrolls of new order. Sacrifices begin by first full moon. These spirits will provide when needed. These warriors listed serve God of earth, and the tribe will perform sacrifice. As I call warriors' names, come forth. Broken Arrow of our brother Choctaw. Raging Bull of our brother Seminole. Screaming Heart of our brother Creek. Thundercloud of our brother Chickasaw. Sunbeam of our brother Muskogee. Blackbone of our brother Cherokee. Before entering back to earth, take knee. Listen to spirits. The sacred scrolls read, Andrew Jackson was the first U.S. president to implement, proposed by George Washington and Henry Knox, removing any Mexicans or Africans living in a tribe amongst the Native American Indians. These people got removed by their assumption that Act of 1830 was greater than our God of earth. Knowing the land would be more prosperous and fertile a place for the white man to live, we were forced to move to new land that was less bountiful. 1831. The Choctaw were first to be removed from their land, forced to travel what white man calls Mississippi, Louisiana, and then Arkansas. We traveled. Most our family died on the trails. We were not allowed to give proper burial. The soldiers robbed us our culture and our pride. We lived like buffalo in the fields. We used to live like eagles in the sky. Few of our men that remained were forced to move to Oklahoma, where land is flat. The winds were strong. No large rivers to fish. Not like our home. 1832. Soon after, the Seminole and white man's Florida also were removed from their land. Then our brothers were shipped to Louisiana, forced to journey Arkansas, lost many families, died on the trail. They also were not allowed proper burial service. The spirit was dead for those who survived, for they were forced to walk to Oklahoma. Then our brothers, 1833. Then our brothers, the Creek, were forced to move with gunpoint from white man's Alabama and Georgia. Creek walked new trail to Mississippi. Then Creek crossed Arkansas. Many of their family died on the trail. No burial was to be given. Creek watched as many tortured and sacrificed in their tribe. Few survived, forced to move to Oklahoma. 1835. The Cherokee. Living in the land of mountains where eagles nest. White man calls this land Tennessee, taking this land for their own. After many talks, white man showed up with great many soldiers. With gunpoint, they had knives on the barrels of guns. Cherokee were forced to walk new trail, beaten, robbed, raped. They work on killing our souls. We walked, we died. Few remained living. Spirits destroyed. We wanted to die. But we lived for our young to survive, to pass the story of the journey of death. From top of Alabama, through Tennessee, down to Arkansas, over into Oklahoma. 1837. Chickasaw uprooted with gunpoint, forced to move from land our fathers gave them. Land white man calls northern Mississippi. They were forced to walk, leaving their memories, possessions, and land given them by their family. To walk trail of death over to Arkansas. Many of their family died, were not allowed burial. Their souls continue to die. Their bodies continue to live in white man's Oklahoma. The year of the fallen eagle. Muskogee also forced to uproot, moved to white man's Georgia, beginning long journey, trail of death, across Alabama, Mississippi, into rocky lands of Arkansas. Few that were left allowed to live. Their spirits remained dead. Much more than trail of tears. This is trail of death, destruction of our spirit. Few remained, walking dead, suffering from exposure to disease and starvation. En route to destinations, many thousands died, both in body and spirit. For some, their body died, their spirit lived, relocated. For some of the strongest Indians, as their body died, their spirits could not be killed by the soldiers of Andrew Jackson. The spirits continued to gather with hatred and needing revenge on the white man. They nestled themselves down into cavern, deep down in the Arkansas mountains, in small spot, known today as Flat Rock. Go back, my warrior spirits. Begin the sacrifice. Save our land from the white man known to break treaties. Send their souls into spirit hell to mingle with the serpent and the reptile like they are. As Chief Sitting Cloud finishes his speech, the thunder of war drums being beaten starts up. The flames of their fire pit roar up into the heavens as the warriors he called forth begin to take their leave. The echoes of the war chant can be heard for a great distance, its noise a whisper in the land of mortals. Very funny, the President of the United States Custard. drove us real hard for 2 days and 2 nights to get here before the others do. You do know that we're all supposed to wait for the rest of the cavalry and generals to get here. You do know that we're all supposed to wait for the rest of the cavalry and generals to get here. Custer wants to make a big name for himself. He's thinking he could win this battle on his own. Then he could say he won the battle by himself, making him look great in the eyes of others. The trooper turns his head back to the sergeant, with a very concerned look on his face, thinking to himself, "We won't come out of this alive. Custer just wants to show how much power he has. But from what I'm seeing, we should wait for the other troops." There's a lot of those savages down there. They continue to wait for their orders to attack. Simmons can't help but take in the scenery. A beautiful valley in front of him, even though it was infested with teepees. The grass on the hillside is a bright mint green, with lots of timber framing in the valley. Simmons turns back to the sergeant. "But you know, it is pretty here in eastern Montana. They call that river down there Little Bighorn. I bet it's loaded with fish. Maybe after today, when we wipe the savages out, we could check that river out. First get a bath, then see what kind of fish we can catch for a good supper. When I was a boy, that's all I did is fish. I know how to catch fish. I can almost talk them out of the water. Just lay up on the bank." The sergeant replied, "Yeah, that's mighty nice, but I think Custer's intentions are bad and ugly and undignified, and comes with very little or no planning at all. Honestly, I don't think we stand a chance against Little Bighorn Sioux and Cheyenne Indians. I'm sure there's a lot more of them than what Custer realizes, but he is so headstrong and not willing to wait for the other cavalry and troops to arrive." As the sergeant finishes speaking, they hear the bugle sounding for attack. Simmons looks across the other side and sees troops raging down the side of the mountain. The sound of gunfire fills the air as the soldiers break through the Indians' camp. Several of the men are jabbed with spears and they fall to the ground, dying in a pool of blood. The whole time, Simmons fears for his life. "If I run, I would be court-martialed and shot. If I stay, I will die from an arrow or a gut wound from a knife." Simmons continues to fight for his life while the war is raging out of control. They are slowly losing the battle. The trooper swings his head around to look and remembers the mint green grass from earlier. He continues to look, noticing it has turned red, soaked with blood, the very thing that sustains life. But now, Mother Nature will yield it back into the earth. They fought for days, extremely long hours. Simmons notices his arms are getting very tired from his continuous fighting. "I will not give up. As long as I can lift my arm to shoot another round, I will continue to live." That's when Simmons feels somebody following him. He doesn't know if an Indian is attacking him or if a soldier bumping into him. Maybe an Indian or soldier fought him to his death. Simmons only has a split second to turn around and look. It's a dead body. He turns back and continues shooting, trying to stay alive. There are moments when Simmons feels like his heart is going to beat right out of his chest. As the battle continues, he can feel himself beginning to sweat from the stress of battle. His bladder is already inflamed with pain. He knows he will have to relieve it during the battle. As he goes to fill up his muzzle-loader rifle, he notices he will soon be out of gunpowder. He drops his head down low, looking around for a dead soldier that may have some gunpowder. He sees one lying on the ground and reaches over to grab it. An Indian suddenly pops up out of nowhere, coming at him with a knife. Simmons reaches down at his scabbard, grabbing his knife and thrusting it up into the air. The Indian trips on a body and falls onto Simmons' knife. Gasping in astonishment at his dumb luck, Simmons throws the dead savage off of him and rolls over onto his stomach. He can hardly believe how close he had just come to death. The trooper grabs the gunpowder flask he found on the dead soldier, reloads, then leans across a dead horse for cover, continuously aiming and firing his rifle. There are moments he can hardly see through all the gunpowder smoke floating in the air, like a black cloud hanging over them. Simmons is getting exhausted as they continue on. He knows today is his day to die. There's a big chance that they will all die today, but as long as they continue to fight, Simmons will be able to get another breath of air and live a little longer. Though the air has a bad stench to it. There is just so much death here today. Simmons can smell the blood, the scent of burnt sulfur, and the air is full of gunpowder odor. Simmons stops to reload his rifle again and turns his head to look. There are hundreds of bodies on the ground, some on horses, belonging to both the Army and the Indians. Most were from the Army's troops. It looks like they had lost the battle. The ground is soaked with blood, a mixture of white man and Indian. It's a shame this is the only way the two could come together. With all the blood that was shed here today, Mother Nature just can't devour the pool of blood fast enough, leaving evidence of the battle by the end of the day. I am truly beginning to believe we are not going to make it out alive. That includes General Custer. The battle is ending. So is Levi. He begins dozing off, going into a deep sleep. He dreams he is a soldier within the Battle of the Indians. He looks around. There are no more living soldiers for the Indians to set rage against. Levi is lying there, bleeding, nestled under another dead body, but still breathing and wounded. Someone grabs him by the arms, dragging him out from under the layers of bodies and across the bloody field. Lifting him up, they place him between two trees and tie each hand to a tree, then his feet. He feels something on his chest, a sharp knife bearing down into him. I'm not dreaming anymore. He shakes his head and opens his eyes. Before him stood a warrior Indian. Then Levi realizes maybe he's a witch doctor. The witch doctor lifts his arm up, placing his head on Levi's forehead to read his thoughts. The witch doctor has an angry look on his face. He knows Levi has knowledge about the Battle of Little Bighorn. This white man thinking about going to battle with Little Bighorn makes him furious. He turns and begins dancing and chanting his way back over to the fire. Levi is shocked and turns to see where the witch doctor is going. He can't believe this is really going on. This only happens in the novels he reads, not in real life. He frantically tugs on his arms and pulls on his feet. Levi turns his head back toward the fire and notices a ball of light glowing in the middle of the fire. He tugs his hands forcefully, trying to pull his hand loose before being served up for dinner. He continues to pull and collapses his hand. His hand slides out from under the rope. He reaches over to untie his other hand, then looks back up at his campfire. They are all involved in that ball of light, like they are hypnotized by it. He reaches down as fast as he can to untie his feet. Then very quietly, but quickly, he eases his way away from the trees and heads in the opposite direction. Off into the dark, he runs as fast as he can, looking for the trail that would lead him up the canyon wall. It is very dark down on the side of the canyon. The only light is coming from the moon, which is filtering through the tree limbs. He runs his hand down the side of the canyon wall, trying to find anything that would help him get out of there. A few more feet down, he finds limbs hanging down with large vines attached to them. He struggles, pulling himself up to the tree limbs and grabbing a hold of the vines. He continues to pull and plow his way to the top. Soon he sees more light coming from the moon. He knows he has to be close to the top of the canyon. Finally, getting to the top, reaching over and grabbing a handful of grass, he pulls himself onto the top of the canyon, rolling onto the ground. His heart is pounding out of his chest, completely out of control, like a panic attack. Levi runs as fast as his 2 feet can take him back to his camper. As he makes his way to his vehicle, back to safety, he tries to understand what just happened to him. Were those Indians? It can't be. Indians aren't like that anymore. His thoughts fumble over one another in his head, but there's no denying what he saw. He's absolutely scared for his life as he makes a mad dash for the camp, every few seconds looking behind him to see if he has any followers. Soon Levi sees the fire he made in the distance, a little sign of hope that helps to push his feet along. He darts in between trees and bushes as he makes his way up out of the top of the canyon and back into the nature trail. Taking another peek behind him, he sees nothing following him. Getting to his truck, he yanks the door open quickly, jumping into the driver's seat as fast as he can. Just as he's shutting the door, he can hear people howling out, almost like a wolf's hunting cry. Looking outside his side window, he can see smoke about 20 foot wide or so. As the misty cloud gets closer, he can see images within the haze. As it continues to draw near, he sees that the images are spirits from out from the canyon, and they're heading his way dreadfully fast. His chest pounds harder as his fingers finally feel the keys. He snatches them up, carefully sticking them in the ignition and cranking the truck. He grabs the shifter and yanks it down in the drive, flooring the accelerator. He heads down the driveway, slinging gravel, dirt, sticks, anything the wheels come in contact with. The warrior spirits make it to the truck, grabbing onto the tailgate, trying to hang on. Levi kept spinning his wheels down the driveway. He looks in the rearview mirror and sees two holding onto the tailgate, looking like bedsheets whipping around in the wind. Levi guns the truck harder, still looking in the rearview mirror. The two that were holding on are now sailing in the wind. He finally makes it to the big arches at the campground entrance and begins to feel a little bit of relief, but his body is still shaking from the dreadful encounter. He is so drenched with sweat that his eyes are nearly blinded by the constant wiping of his brow. The warrior spirits send a telepathic message to Blackbone. White man escaped. He heads your way now. Be watching for him. When Blackbone receives the message, he heads out of the front door to the store, locking it behind him. As he reaches in his pocket for his truck keys, he can hear the sound of the engine coming at a high speed down the drive from the RV park. He makes a dash to his truck, yanking open the door, and jumps into the driver's seat. As Levi approaches the end of the driveway, he slams on his brakes, turning left, and begins laying rubber on the pavement. He picks up speed, jerking his head up to look in the rearview mirror. He can't see anything. Finally, a moment of relief. When Blackbone sees the truck slam on its brakes and turn left, he backs up and heads down the parking lot, slinging gravel, leaving a cloud of dust and dirt behind him. He picks up speed and glances through the windshield, up to see if there's still a full moon. He notices a lot of moonlight shining on the road and decides it would be best to leave his headlights off, as he can get closer to Levi's back bumper. Maybe he won't see me until I'm right on his bumper. I've got to catch that son of a bitch before he gets too far. Blackbone goes around the next curve and he can see the taillights of a truck. From a distance, it looks like Levi has slowed down some. The rain begins again, heavy and thick drops splattering against Blackbone's windshield. Blackbone knows he can catch up to him. He guns down on the gas. His motor begins to tack up. He can hear his tailpipes bellowing out the back. He looks back down at the road. The yellow dashes in the center are turning into a straight line. He looks back down on the road. The yellow dashes in the center are turning into a straight line. He can see the taillights of the truck getting closer and closer. Blackbone anticipates how to handle this. He knows Levi is just not going to pull over for anybody, not until he feels safe. He sees the taillights are getting really close and he's coming up on the road that goes to the pit. Now, how can I get him to go down that little dirt road going into the pit? I need to wait for Levi to get closer to the pit road. When he gets within 100 feet of the road, I'm going to flip my lights on. Then I'll tap his truck on the back right corner, making his truck slide to one side. When his truck starts sliding and lining up to the pit road, I'm going to drift my truck off to the far left lane and power slide into him. Then I'll pull my truck down into low, pull the four-wheel drive shift back, and ram his back bumper, bulldozing him down the gate. Adrenaline is building and so is the sun. It will soon be total daylight. Blackbone can see the gravel pit gates through the trees just above the cab of the truck. He knows he doesn't have a moment to waste. He has one chance and one chance only to do this right. He has run it over his mind several times and now the moment's here. He clicks his headlights on and can see Levi turning his head toward his mirror. He looks shocked. Blackbone yanks the steering wheel to the right, rolling his tires just off the road. He looks over and scopes out the right spot on the truck to tap with his bumper. He floors the gas pedal. Blackbone getting his front bumper even with Levi's. I need to pull up at least another foot or two. Now! Jerking his steering wheel to the left, making contact with the truck sounds like two trains colliding. Levi slides sideways, his truck lining up with the drive. Blackbone gets in the far left lane and yanks the wheel to the right, laying on the brakes. As the back end of Blackbone's truck starts sliding around, he turns the steering wheel back to the left and lets up off the brake. Within seconds, he is looking at Levi's back bumper. Blackbone looks up to see what he is doing and notices Levi leaning over and locking the doors. He doesn't stand a chance. Then the rain starts coming down in sheets. The sun starts to burst through the black thunderclouds in the far distance. Blackbone reaches down and grabs the four-wheel drive shifter and pulls it into gear faster than a mongoose gets a cobra snake. He begins to attack his motor, throwing his shifter into gear as his truck leaps forward. Within moments, he makes contact with Levi's back bumper. Blackbone's tires spin forward, then sees Levi's brake lights. I had done figured I was going to have to tack my motor up high, still pushing him. Blackbone looks through the windows and sees smoke billowing out from under all the wheels of his truck. He smells rubber and hears a horrified screeching noise coming from his spinning tires, like bats having an orgy. Blackbone continues to keep the pedal down on the floor. Levi's truck is moving forward. They make it to the dirt and Levi's truck begins to slide. He does not have any traction. Blackbone pushes faster. They both made it onto the dirt road and Levi lets up off the brake. He pulls forward away from his attacker, as if he knows he can get away. Blackbone decides to back off a little bit and lets Levi get ahead. I know there was an old tree limb down there. If I continue to stay behind, pushing him, he may go out across the tree limb and get stuck, which make it harder on me to get the truck out of there. But if I back off, Levi may not be rationally thinking. When he gets to the tree, the limb may slow him down, maybe enough to think about going around it and through the ditch. Then he'll get stuck. I need to get up there where he's at before he jumps out of his truck and tries to make a run for it.
Alright guys, tell them where you seen it at. If you like it, like it. And if you want to stay in touch, subscribe. We'll stay in touch. I'll even go check out your channel. Talk to you later. Bye.